Hello and welcome to Feel Good Friday for the last time in 2023. Next week being the week between Christmas and New Year's, I have no appointments, I have no services, everything's just quiet, so I'm just going to take a week off. I'm going to read books and probably start getting ready for my move at the end of February. But so there won't be a church at home um, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. There will be one for Christmas Day on Monday and the Gospel on the Go on Sunday for Christmas Eve or for Advent 3. There'll be Christmas Eve, one released later in the afternoon, Christmas Day on Monday, and then New Year's Eve, which is the first Sunday after Christmas. But I'm going to take Tuesday through Friday off. So this is our last Feel Good Friday for 2023. And today I'd just like to talk about Christmas presents because isn't that exciting? This year, Rob and I aren't doing Christmas. I mean, I think he bought me something and I bought him some Lego. He never watches these, so I don't need to worry about telling you. I got him the Orient Express um, for Christmas, the Lego. So it'll take him an hour and a half to do it, but it'll keep him occupied for a little while at Christmas. In thinking about feeling good, I'd like to talk to you about those Christmas presents from your past that felt so good. I've got a couple of examples. One, and I think what I've done in my memory is that beautiful thing where we conflate memories. So, favorite Christmas ever feels like I think it's probably three Christmases altogether. But Christmas Eve, we would go to church and we went out to, I remember we went out to the car and it was snowing and the lights were on outside and it was absolutely beautiful. And we were going to probably would be a 7 o'clock service at our church for families. And my mom had made my sister and I, there was just two of us at the time, she'd made us these dresses. Every Christmas, she would make us something homemade, with pajamas or a dress or something. And mine was like a light brown with a little flower pattern all over it and frilly sleeves. And my sister Jennifer's was green with a flower pattern and frilly sleeves. And we called them our Laura Ingalls dresses. And we were all dressed in those. And we had then put I had a big blue pea coat, if you know what I mean, like a big blue jacket with the buttons down the front, and it covered everything, kept me nice and warm in my big boots. And we piled in the car, and Mom said, "Oh, I have to go back in the house for a minute." And we just figured she'd forgot her purse or she'd go to the bathroom or something, and she was gone for about 5 minutes. And Dad was unrealist or unlike himself, getting a little. He wasn't getting antsy about where she was. Usually, when we got in the car, he wanted to just go. He was like, "No problem. We're listening to music on the radio." And she finally came out when we went to church, and then family friends of ours, the Mains, came back and they stayed with us, and they gave us each pencil boxes, and their pencils had our names on them, and my name was spelled right. My first name spelled AEL at the end, and I had all these beautiful charcoal, like, or regular pencils. They were all different colors. The lead was all black, but they were all different colors and had my name Rachel written on them, each one. I was so excited. But when we got in the house, we all came. I don't know why they came with us, but we all came back to the house. We walked in, and there in the living room beside our Christmas tree was an easel with a cork board on one side and a chalkboard on the other, and a table with the crayon, like the pencil, different colored crayon, sticks of chalk, and the brush and some markers and stuff for the pit and pins for the back for the corkboard side. And it turns out my grandfather had made that for us, and my mom had taken it to the basement of the bank where my dad was the manager, and she painted it. And it was in the house waiting. And when she went back in the house to go to the bathroom, she was actually bringing it out of its hiding place so it'd be there when we got home. And then in the next morning, we had tons of presents in the tree. This is why I think I've conflated three different Christmases. But we came downstairs and there were sleeping bags and pillows, homemade pillows. And there was a crokinole board. It's an Ontario thing, game of crokinole. Between them, there was my sister and I, and there was a transistor radio. But I also got a record player, and it was a plastic with a carrying case, and they got the Captain and Tennille record LP, the big vinyl, and it had a poster I could put over my bed I didn't have to have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs anymore. I felt so grown up because I had the Captain and Tennille poster. I mean, all of these things, I think I'm remembering many different things, but all of these things in my memory make up for this incredible Christmas. And then that transistor radio that came with batteries. Wow, isn't that cool? Santa Claus remembered batteries. And I remember getting in the car for a 3 hour trip up to the farm on Christmas Day, listening to the static on my little transistor radio, trying to find a radio station. It didn't matter whether it was talk news or country music or anything. I was 8 years old and I had my own radio, and it had like an earplug, just one on a cord. It was kind of an off-white color. It was plastic. The little transistor radio was red and gray with a grid. It was awesome. So for me, music and the homemade stuff and that kind of was those are the favorite memories I have. And then skip ahead maybe 7 years. I'm thinking, how old was I? Maybe, well, no, not that long. I was only 14, so maybe 5 or 6 years. And I remember I was in grade nine, and right before Christmas break, I slipped going in onto the terrazzo floor in the high school, and I sprained my knee. I did something to the ligaments in my knee, and I didn't realize it. And I walked around on it all day. And by the time I got home, my knee was like this big, like the filled my jeans. Went to the hospital. They gave me some kind of a weird cast that had lots and lots of wrap bunting and then tensor bandages around it, keep it straight. And I had to wear that. And so I spent Christmas on crutches. But I remember that year I had read this book, the Kannada, and it was a series. It was the first of a book, I think 6 or 7 books that talked about, it was historical fiction and talked about the sort of the founding of Canada. And now looking back, I think, oh my heavens, because of colonialization and everything. But it was an interesting story. He started in Scotland and moved his way over to Canada and the United States. It was pretty cool. And I remember it was one of those books that I probably, if my mother knew what the content was, I probably should not have been reading at that age. But my dad and my dad was the one that brought the book in the house, and he wasn't fazed by it that I picked it up to read it. And so that's what I got for Christmas. And I also got a tam, those flat caps with the peak. I got one that was just like my grandpa's. I was so proud of those things. And those 2 Christmases, when I look back, those 2 Christmases were amazing. And I remember thinking, like, oh, the best Christmas gifts ever. And the reality is, the reason why they were the best Christmas gifts ever was because they spoke to who I was and who I am. I love music, and I love old-fashioned things like those Laura Ingalls dresses. And I love music, and I love to read. And be given those as gifts for Christmas is absolutely phenomenal, because it says to me that the person who gave me those gifts, or the people who gave me those gifts, were really thinking about me. Since then, Christmas gifts have taken on a whole mind of their own, a whole different world, because it's great. And Rob always gets me books and things like that he knows that I love, and I appreciate that. Last year, as a matter of fact, he got me a whole pile of books. I must have gotten 12 books, and all but one of them were about strong women. There were biographies and autobiographies. There was a couple of novels, but they were all about strong women. And he told me there was a theme, that he was giving me books about women who were strong like me. And I really, like, that just blew me away. I mean, he's not the most romantic guy in the world, but that was like the sweetest gift ever. And thinking about this year, that it's not about the gifts. It's not even about hanging decorations, because we haven't. But just thinking about, you know what? I have the gift of my sweetheart. I get to spend the day, get to spend the time with my husband, whom with whom I don't haven't always had that opportunity. He is a relationship I didn't get until I was 32 years old, and for probably 3 or 4 at least of our Christmases, we weren't together. We haven't been together for very many anniversaries or birthdays because of his work. And now we're looking at me going away, and we're going to be apart for things too. But the greatest gift isn't the times when we're together. It really is the recognition that all of the times that we're together allow me to be filled up and filled with that sense that I am loved, and I have a best friend who's going nowhere. Even when he's not with me, I know that I am loved. And that essentially is what all those Christmas gifts of years past were all about. That the people who were buying presents for me or giving me presents were thinking about me and loving me enough to try to give me something that would fit who I am. And knowing that even if I can't be with Rob for holidays or something, that he loves me and that I love him, and that we've got this. We can do this, whatever this might be. That is the ultimate in Christmas gifts for me. So as we approach Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and the gift giving or the not gift giving, some people that's not their thing, or they're not able to do that. Maybe what we need to feel good about this weekend is thinking about the gifts that we do have. Those gifts that aren't really tangible, that you can't wrap and unwrap, but those gifts that we know we hold in our hearts. So what is your Feel Good Friday Christmas gift that means the most to you? Maybe one from your childhood and one from your adulthood. When you head into this weekend, and I know that for a lot of people it's going to be bittersweet, there'll be wonderful, beautiful things, but there will also be reminders of some things that maybe we haven't got anymore or things that we would like to have but don't have. As you head into this weekend, think about the things, the gifts that you do have, because there are some things in your life, some things that are gifts, even when it's hard to find them. So think about those things and give thanks and feel good because you have them. I'm going to sign off now. I'll be back with Gospel on the Go on Sunday morning for Advent 4, even though we're not doing a church service. You'll get a cover and a prayer. Um, then I'll be back on Christmas Eve later in the day with an actual Christmas Eve service, so to speak, and then a Christmas Day short one. And then I'm off after Monday the 25th until I'll be back on Sunday the 31st. And then we'll be back up and running for Church at Home with Rachel, I hope. That's the plan. Have a great weekend. God bless you. And in case I don't see you until after Merry Christmas and New Year's, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.